Chronic absenteeism among Native students started to increase when the 2020 pandemic kept students at home, even if they had internet access and a chance to study virtually. Educator Donna Richey of Anadarko, Oklahoma, said about 80% of the district's students are Native.
We've always had those challenges in our community like this, but chronic absenteeism, right, has really expanded with that, as well as across the nation. With our tribal communities and schools, we implemented that program during a pandemic year where we were able to kind of stable that a little bit in our community, which I always loved hearing our superintendent, say, I don't know what we would have done without this program.
Richie said thanks to a special program, 90% of the school's Native students have reduced their absentee rate.
In Anadarko, in their public school system, their chronic absenteeism rate reduced. It was between 10 and 20% of a decrease in their chronic absenteeism overall for their district over the year. So it was really interesting. Even in the COVID year, they were able to maintain the rate instead of decrease it.
Some of the factors that contribute to chronic absenteeism include lack of transportation to and from school, health and wellness problems, and lack of basic resources like electricity or even a computer. Chronic absenteeism remains higher among Native students compared to the general population, but Native educators continue to problem solve. Building community relationships, sharing resources, and mentoring students is key. Developing trusting relationships with students is important too.
Sometimes in an education setting, that's very challenging. And so, if you look at the research and you look at anecdotal ideas from school personnel and from students and from parents, a lot of times students will say that the research will say that they need a mentor, right? Or they need a connection. And the value of that one person in the building that can really focus, right, on that strengths and asset base, developing relationships, helping to kind of support those relationships, even between home, community, and the students and the teachers. So really someone to be there to be able to make those connections, to not only connect people together in relationships, but also resources.
Higher education, too, struggles with Native students staying in school. According to the National Center for Educational Statistics, about 40% fewer Native college students are entering college for a variety of reasons. One educator said that steep decline is a crisis, but she said resources abound to help get those students back on track.
We've seen a drop in Native student enrollment in college of about 40%, which is a crisis in Indian country. It's actually a crisis for America when you have a population that isn't able to access post-secondary education.
One of the causes is a problem that so many Native parents who are college students deal with daily: the lack of childcare for starters, then also the growing cost of higher education.
Oftentimes, I think, which is normal, we default to cost. We think that, it is a significant barrier to American Indian Alaska Native students to be able to access sufficient financial resources to go to college. Mm-hmm. We find that a significant number of students, such as like at the College Fund, about 40% of our students have dependents.
Another key to Native student success across the board is learning from teachers of color and studying true histories of Native peoples. One educator, who also works with tribes on keeping their languages alive, also teaches teachers how to teach Native curriculum.
Montana has this law called Indian Education for All, and it's been kind of part of our Constitution since 1972. 1999, the legislature passed it actually into law. And then what it says is that all students, in all subject areas, and we're talking pre-K through college, should be learning in culturally responsive ways about Montana's First People.
Indian Education for All in Montana was finally funded in 2005 for every student from kindergarten through 12th grade. That's when more curriculum was developed in hopes that more teachers would incorporate Native culture and history into their lessons.
What Indian Education for All does is it infuses the curriculum with materials that are respectful and culturally responsive, and if done well, engage students in feeling much more included. And so for students to have that experience, teachers need to also know it. We also see that there is an important impact on non-Native students, especially when they don't live near a reservation, or they don't have access to any way to break down stereotypes, to actually get to know anything about the people that are their neighbors. And so, we see Indian Education for All as a way of creating better neighbors.
I think I'll put a plug in for more Native teachers, both teachers who teach Native students and teachers who teach in schools. Because if your colleagues, if you have Native colleagues, just like if you have any other person of color as a colleague, or people with different gender identities as colleagues, it allows you to be more comfortable being able to teach about different subject matters. And so I think let's increase Native student enrollment in higher ed by getting more teachers.
Crazy Bull said a combination of solutions will help alleviate the crisis in Native education enrollment. She said valuing post-secondary education, vocational and technical education, fostering community engagement, and teaching young Native students that college is for them, too, helps in the long run.
Our communities are struggling. Our people are struggling. And so I think education is we have to wrap it around people, wrap it around our families at an early age, and really try to influence everything from early childhood ed to K-12 education so that those opportunities for higher ed open up. But yeah, I think it's hard work for all of us, and just that constant push to help people see just what Donna was saying. You have the assets. You have that in you we are evidence that you as a Native person can have a successful college experience. Took me 3 colleges and look at me now. So, you can do it.